Niners emergency live podcast. It's actually a delayed Winky Wednesday, but emergency live podcast. Deebo Samuel officially requesting a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. What the heck is going on? We'll try to get to the bottom of it right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock, Eric Crocker, Nick Winkler, a Winky Wednesday special live podcast midday. I don't even know what day it is. I'm glad it's Winky Wednesday, or else I wouldn't know what day it is because I don't know what's going on. My head's spinning. Deebo Samuel, according to Jeff Darlington of NFL.com. Breaking news, just spoke to wide receiver Deebo Samuel, and he told me that he has asked the 49ers to trade him. He did not want to discuss specific reasons behind his request, but he has indeed let the 49ers know his desire to leave the organization. More to come. By the way, I want to thank everybody for jumping on with us, making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And man, it is every day this offseason. Something comes up, and this news is really bigger than a lot of what we've seen. And I thought things were crazy last offseason, guys. This offseason might top it now, even though with what went on the month before the draft last year, with trading up the number 3 overall, not knowing which quarterback it was going to be, and Schadenfreude and smoke screens going around. And this offseason has been crazier. Deebo Samuel now officially requesting a trade. I see Croc shaking his head, but Wink, I want to go to you first.
Nicholas Winkler, come on down. Wow.
Can't believe it.
What is going on, Wink? What say it ain't so. Deebo Samuel? Could the 49ers really be trading Deebo Samuel? Wink's muted. I can't hear you, Wink. Did we lose it? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we lost him, but I'm here.
Croc's turn. Croc. Look, Deebo Samuel was the most important player on the 49ers last year. Now requesting a trade officially. We've known there's some things are going on. He scrubs social media. It's like, whatever, who cares? But this is official. He let the team know, I want out. And I want to go to Ian Rappaport real quick, who shed a little bit more light on this. He said the 49ers have been looking to make offers for a long-term deal with Deebo Samuel, but he's unwilling to engage. This is why. Unclear where this goes from here, but Samuel wanting out is the latest in big-name wide receiver drama. He goes on to say money is not at the root of the issues for Deebo Samuel, which is key. Otherwise, that could be fixed with a big offer. Let's bring Wink back in on the pod. But there are also issues with how he's used Croc. So not even money. Deebo doesn't even want to be the wide back.
I wouldn't either. You know, I mean, look, from the money aspect of it, right? And now, what if the team is telling him, well, we think this is where you're most valuable, and you would be the Deebo Samuel that could request his trade and get a ton back if we didn't utilize you the way that we did. And if I'm Deebo Samuel, I'm saying, F you, I'm good no matter how someone uses me. And I could see how there had to be a certain level of disrespect to get to this point. I thought it was a money issue where maybe he's looking at guys like, Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill and, Adams. And like, man, they're getting north of $70 million guaranteed. Maybe the 49ers came in around $45 million guaranteed, and he just thought it was so disrespectful, he deleted everything off of his Instagram. But clearly, this is much deeper than that. He doesn't like the way he's being utilized. I don't know what the conversation was like between he and Kyle Shanahan, who it seems like they love each other. They talk every day, best friends, but we have talked about his tone towards certain questions that they've asked him this offseason. And I think that kind of showed maybe there was a little bit more there, and we're seeing it kind of bubble over right now. So
yeah. And Wink, I want to ask you, how does it get to this demanding a trade, issues with how you're being used in March and April, when in January he's walking over to the sideline telling his coach who's calling the plays, hand me the ball? right?
Yeah.
So
It's got to be a durability thing, right? It's got to be a longevity thing. It's got to be like, hey, look, I'm a top wide receiver. Pay me as such. I'm also a running back, so I should be getting more than all of these other guys. And I'm thinking that he came at them with a high number, and the 49ers were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Pump your brakes a little bit there. Like, we have this to offer you, probably less than what Tyreek Hill got. And he's thinking, wait a minute, I'm doing 2 jobs instead of 1. I should be getting paid as such.
yeah, you should be getting paid a bonus on top of the wide receiver stuff, not being paid like a running back. And according to Adam Schefter on ESPN yesterday, he said San Francisco would pay Deebo Samuel today, tomorrow, the next day. It's not hard to figure out what the contract would look like. This, I think, is Deebo not wanting to get a deal done. The 49ers are ready. Deebo's the one that's put a halt to everything right now. And now fast forwarding another day and hearing this coming out about Deebo Samuel. So it has to be that, and I don't think it's usage, because Deebo didn't have a problem while he was being utilized that way. I think it's being paid for that usage is where Deebo's having the problem. So 49ers must have come with an offer that made it look like we treated you like a running back half the time, so now we want to pay you like a running back half the time. And Deebo's people probably were furious, and Deebo himself furious about that. And now it's become public. Right, Croc? Because it's and I don't know what the offers were behind the scenes, and I'm sure the 49ers have talked to their people and probably tried to put something out there. But the 49ers have always been an organization that, with Prague Marate, doing negotiations behind the scenes, they don't want to overpay guys. They try to do things their way, structure contracts their way. But if they tried to come at Deebo with something that looked more like running back money instead of wide receiver money, you can't blame him for being mad about that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like there's something different. They said it's not about the money. So I know we're having a conversation about money, but the tweet I saw was that it's deeper than money. It's about usage, and it could be about other things. Is there a chance that he's upset with what's going on at the quarterback position, where most of us would think, there's question marks about Jimmy Garoppolo, even when he was the quarterback. And obviously, there's so much unknown with Trey Lance. But do you think there could be, well, I had this level of success and, I did well with Jimmy Garoppolo. I want to keep this guy where that's making me a first team all pro, as opposed to go to the rookie where I don't think he's there yet to get me to that point. So I won out. That seems pretty dramatic, I would say. But because it's not like he didn't put up numbers at all with Trey Lance, right? Like he had, multiple. He had 2 against the Seahawks. Second half, he had over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Scored again on the bomb against Houston. So it's not like he wasn't being targeted or anything like that. So even that, I'm just trying to wrap my head around what the issue is.
Right.
I don't know. So, but he was unwilling to compromise with working out in different places, and I ain't going over there. They got to come to me and all that. So I don't know. Weird scenario where he was almost kind of setting up for this, not trying to get close to those guys. Remember, we talked about it. Everybody was working out with Trey Lance. Why isn't Deebo? And Deebo, he works out away all the time. I'm like, I don't know. Some different going on. People are saying taxes, and it ain't about California taxes. It ain't about this is he don't want to be a 49er.
You think it's a situation where Jimmy's his guy, and he's like, hey, you want to trade Jimmy? You got to trade me too. The stand up in the room, or like the Rudy where they come in and Rudy can take my spot. Coach, Rudy can take my spot. He's like, hey, you're gonna trade him, you got to trade me.
He backed Jimmy a lot, throughout this process.
Everybody backs Jimmy, and Deebo wouldn't be the only guy in the organization. It wasn't 100%. Let's go from Jimmy to Trey Lance last year. Going back to last year before the draft, before we knew who the quarterback was going to be. I mean, you'd be a fool to think that everybody in the organization, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Adam Peters, the entire coaching staff, the entire scouting staff, everyone was like, oh, we have Trey Lance number 1 at quarterback, right? So I wonder if there's something else there. And I wonder if there's things we saw in practice where Deebo's like, oh, shoot, Brandon Ayuk's about to take half of my targets, right? So maybe it's even just that simple too. So, so look, there's a lot more to cover with this. Alex Mack might not be around to block for the wide back or the running backs or the quarterbacks next year. We've got to get to that story as well, but more on Deebo Samuel requesting a trade coming up. And there's a big thing with all of this, no matter if it's money or usage, that still doesn't make sense to me. So we'll get into that next. We'll try to get into the chat a little bit. I want to thank everybody who jumped in live with us on this emergency Winky Wednesday podcast. A whole lot more coming up, but let's let the folks know how to keep the folks in their life happy, right? You don't want people requesting a trade in your family. You don't want mom or your wife that might also be a mom requesting a trade, right? So go to BlueNile.com and get them taken care of. And it's not going to cost you $25 million per year, but you can find some high-end jewelry, whether she prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance. BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for every mom. Shop high-quality classic diamond earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, or gemstone pendant necklaces. And look, you got to take care of the women in your life, right? And Mother's Day is one of the perfect times to do it. It's very simple. And the great thing about BlueNile.com is they have 24/7 experts on hand to personally walk you through the process of finding the right piece of jewelry for the woman in your life. Mark Mother's Day with something enduring. Classic diamond stud earrings. I mean, that is always a good one. Birthstone pendants and so much more at BlueNile.com this Mother's Day. Give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On 49ers listeners get $50 off $500 purchase. So this podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in a discreet package that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, folks, we've got a ton going on in the Locked On Podcast Network with the NFL Draft right here on Locked On 49ers, Locked On NFL Draft starring Eric Crocker, the Locked On NFL channel. There's the Ultimate Mock Draft going on right now on the Odyssey channel, and the Locked On NFL channel featuring yours truly, me, Brian Peacock, and former NFL and college scout Matt Williamson. We are the hosts of Peacock and Williamson, and we are hosting the Ultimate Mock Draft Special. So find all of that right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Woo!
I do have a positive throughout all this.
Oh,
John Lynch can go to BlueNile.com, send a little bling to Deebo Samuel, and get this. Is that what you're going to say?
No, the positive is that it happened now, right? Before the draft, a week before the draft, where teams will be heavily engaged in trade talks and things like that leading up to it, to where at least you can try to make some type of good. First of all, and I was on the phone with my brother today. Again, I always talk about him, diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. He was going off on the 49ers organization about their handling of Deebo Samuel. And he's like, you guys are stupid. You aren't sniffing what y'all did last year without him. Y'all don't beat my Cowboys without Deebo Samuel. He's the best player on your team. I mean, he's going off, right? And he was like, I wouldn't even take two first-round picks from him. And I was like, man, I've said the same thing, because you can't replace what he did with 2 first-round picks, and you don't even know what you're getting with that.
Right.
And he was a first-team All-Pro guy. But if you have to, which clearly he requested a trade, he doesn't want to be here. So now it's like, all right, let's get whatever the best offer is. And there will be teams that come with good offers. And at least it happened before the draft, to where you can get something out of it now and maybe a future pick as well, as opposed to after the draft, where it's like, damn, we can't even address because it was bound to happen with the contract negotiations or whatever's going on and him not want to be here. It was bound to happen, but at least now you have an opportunity to kind of get ahead of it with drafting a receiver, prioritizing it. Maybe, I don't know, with free agents out there, I see Jarvis Landry's name up there, going to get a guy like Jarvis Landry. I don't know, man.
No, Jarvis Landry is not going to help the 49ers' current situation. It would be a whole bunch of draft picks and maybe some players involved. We'll get to what that would have to look like to make the 49ers better moving on from Deebo Samuel, which would be tough to do. Philip says, remember when Peacock scoffed at Deebo scrubbing his social media? Pepperidge Farm remembers. You could scrub your social media all day long. I don't care about it. And neither do other grown men who are running front offices in the NFL. Now, if your agent calls up and says, my player is not going to sign with you, he wants to be traded, that's something. So now we have a story to talk about. Scrubbing your social media doesn't mean much to me. And speaking of agents, I feel like this is all agent driven. Look, I'm not going to stand for billionaire owners, right? Not worried about how much money they have to pay out to players. But at the same time, I'm over here paying $13 a beer as a fan. I'm not going to worry about what the millionaire athletes are making either. You guys can squabble about whether you're going to get $23.5 or $25 million per year. You better do that behind closed doors. So the only losers here are the fans in all this, the people who go out and spend their hard-earned money on a number 19 jersey, right? Croc, how much money does it cost to take your family to an NFL game?
I don't know because I've never done it. I'm very frugal. I will not do it.
I've done it.
Wink knows.
They ain't going to a game.
Winks bought jerseys. Winks bought the tickets for his whole family, the travel, right? It's the fans that end up paying for this. So I'm not going to fight for the owners. I'm not going to fight really for the players. The one thing I will say, if you don't want to look bad in this, don't make it public. So the only thing that can end with all this is half of the fans, even if Deebo resigns, are going to be mad at him. And if they trade Deebo, there's going to be people out there burning number 19 jerseys. And that's not, I'm not saying that that's right either, but look, millionaires and billionaires fighting over money when I'm paying $13 for a beer, do that behind closed doors.
Yeah, the problem is that it's the salary cap, though, right?
We're making this about money. They're saying it's not about money.
I don't buy it.
Okay.
That's what the Darlington tweet is.
Right.
It's not about money.
Right. So, okay. It's not about money. Deebo Samuel's telling Kyle Shanahan in January to give him the ball, to hand him the ball, right? So was it about usage then, or was it about usage when he saw what the money for the usage was?
That's always what it is.
Back to money. But here's the other thing. So, okay, and I fully believe this is orchestrated, and there's a lot with the agents involved, which is why if there's a bad guy out there, it's the agents. Croc, you've had an agent before, but an agent doesn't have to move. You know, if the player gets traded, the agent's like, oh, cool, you got more money, which means I got more money. But guess what? I get to live in the same house I already lived in. You got to go move to get that money for you and me. So, I think agents do some things behind the scenes that might not be great for everybody. It looks great when they're putting together a plan to try to maximize dollars, but maybe it doesn't always work out. But aside from all of that, Croc. So let's say it's the New York Jets. Let's say it's the Eagles, who my guys, Locked On Eagles hosts, Louis DiBiase and Gino Camilleri, they're offering up in a fictitious world, pick 15 and 51, their first and second round picks. It's a pretty good haul, right? If the Eagles trade for Deebo Samuel, don't you think part of getting Deebo Samuel on your team is knowing that you can hand him the ball and use him as a wide back? You don't think the team that's going to be trying to trade for Deebo Samuel wants to be able to use him like the 49ers just showed that you can use him? So it's not like Deebo Samuel is going to go somewhere else and they're going to be like, oh, okay, not only are we going to trade you some ridiculous amount that the 49ers absolutely should be asking for, 2 first-round picks, right? That's what I would, at minimum, that's what I'd be asking for if I'm the 49ers, and high picks too, and players. And you got to pay him what he wants, $25 million per year. And now Deebo Samuel is your quasi-play caller because he gets to tell you what kind of plays you get to call for it. You think a team's going to be cool with that? So I don't buy the usage thing either because that's part of Deebo Samuel's value to a team that would be trying to trade for him.
It's money, guys. It really is. The 49ers can't pay their left tackle, their tight end, their middle linebacker, the most in football. And they got to pay Nick Bosa soon, too. And then a wide receiver as well. Like, where's all that money coming from? It's got to be a money thing. It's got to be them saying, like, look, you're more of a running back. We're going to pay you more as a running back. And I get that. He feels disrespected. He doesn't like that. He wants out. If he wants out, I saw over here, 4-9 Bloodline had a great comment. He said, trade him to Detroit. I mean, they got picks. They got money. You want to go over there and do, we'll take the picks. You can get paid by Detroit. Let's go.
But nobody's going to, they would have to pay him, but they would have to know that he's going to sign the extension. Matter of fact, he would have to sign an extension with the trade, right? Like what we saw with Tyreek Hill. Like those things would have to get worked out before he even gets traded. So I don't even think it's as simple as, we're going to trade you to Detroit. Because he's like, man, I ain't re-signing with them. And they're like, oh, we ain't trading with them. That happened. And I've talked about it before. I brought up Josh Allen and the Antonio Brown situation. The Buffalo Bills traded for Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown said, I ain't going there. And it was like, all of a sudden, it was like, oh, well, never mind. There is no trade. Like, yeah, like he didn't want to go play with Josh Allen. before
Dumb.
Josh Allen became Josh Allen.
Good
right?
call, Antonio Brown.
But
First
you know that
decision
you
for-
gotta have to want to resign like the player. So wherever he's traded, it's almost like having a no trade clause.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
Deebo's people would have to respond and be signing a new deal with whatever team he was traded to. So that's part of it too. And maybe there's a couple spots he really, really wants to go. A lot of people throw out the Miami Dolphins. They already did that. They already shot their shot. They don't have a pick until like after pick 100, the Dolphins. So they already went and got Tyreek Hill. So it's not going to be him. And by the way, who was the guy that was designing all those plays for him to be running? That's the new head coach in Miami. So it's not going to be the Miami Dolphins. The New York Jets seem to be, a huge player in this. We'll talk next about maybe some offers and what that could look like. In fact, we did that already a week ago, right? So we kind of know. But now we have to answer the question, what would the 49ers have to get to make them better? Because if you're the 49ers, you're not going to make yourself worse. And a lot of people in the chat are pointing out he's still under contract and you got a franchise tag after that. So Deebo doesn't have a ton of leverage here. So maybe that's a leverage play. And again, brings me back to the agents in all of this. If you want to try to get yourself traded and paid before the draft when other teams have the picks to send to the 49ers, otherwise you got to wait, maybe if you're playing hardball, another year to hit free agency. Then there's the franchise tag still. So the 49ers have a ton of leverage in this. And the business side of things, I think the 49ers are right to not go immediately to Deebo's number, no matter what he demands, because they really don't have to with the business of football and the way things are. And next, I want to answer this question as well from Tony in the chat. Can Kyle fix this with Deebo Samuel? All that coming up after I let the folks out there know about Built Bar. The peanut butter Built Bars are back. I've long been talking about how good the peanut butter Built Bars are. The consistency, the flavor, it is just perfect, covered in 100% real chocolate. It is a low sugar, low calorie, low net carb, high protein snack that is exactly what you're looking for, that won't wreck your diet if you want something delicious to eat. And there's no better flavor, in my opinion, than the peanut butter, which is back in stock at built.com. All Built Bars covered in real chocolate too, 100% real chocolate. It is legitimate chocolate. It isn't this fake brown colored stuff that I know what you know what I'm talking about. You've had it before, and it is not great. It is not pleasing. Built Bar has real chocolate on just about every single flavor of Built Bar, especially that peanut butter. Yeah, did I mention the peanut butter Built Bar? Tons of new flavors coming in all the time, holiday flavors. You can get a mixed box of Built Bars if you don't know what flavor you want. And have you tried Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out. This stuff's crazy. It is the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. You can get all of those treats. Again, most Built Bars contain only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with 17 grams of protein. Compare that to not only candy bars and other junk food you could be eating, but other protein bars as well. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you will get 15% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Okay, guys, 2 questions we have to answer here before we end this podcast. What would the 49ers have to get back that makes them better? Not just like, oh, what's a good trade for Deebo? No, what makes you better as an organization because you traded him away? What would you have to get back for that? And I want to go back to Tony's question about Kyle. Can Kyle fix this? Because if this is like Parag talking to Deebo's agent, and this is like he said, she said, oh, this is a bad offer, this is a disrespectful offer, or John Lynch making offers. We talked about how good the relationship had been between Kyle Shanahan and Deebo Samuel, right? His play caller. Could a phone call between Kyle and Deebo squash this?
Not unless he's calling him with more money. I'm not moving off that thing. It's a money situation. It's got to be.
Croc, what if Kyle says, okay, look, sorry, Deebo. Sorry for those halfback dives. Sorry, we don't want you getting tackled by a 300-pounder either. And look, I was vocal about that. I don't think he should be running those types of plays. You need to use him a couple times per game. Turning him into a running back, it ruins his career, and I just don't think it's the right way to use Deebo. And if you're going to pay a guy, you don't want to start having him run headfirst into defensive linemen all day long. Hand him the ball a couple times a game. But I wonder if they could work something into the contract where it's like maybe he gets more money if he gets more carries. or something that would incentivize the 49ers to not quite utilize him as a straight up running back and not even a wide back. Like, let's use this guy as a wide receiver and sprinkle in some running back usage.
Yeah, like if you go over 40 carries for the season, we got to pay you, know, $5 million more. So it's like, you know, you got to pay him $5 million more. It's like, we ain't giving him 40 carries, right?
Right. That's a good way. If that's really the problem, if it really is his usage, then yeah, you have stacks, 30, 40, 50, 60 carries, you know, where you can make a ton of money. You don't want to do this? Well, this is how you're really going to get that big chunk of this huge contract, you know. Make it look huge. Make it look like one of those ridiculous 125, $150 million contract. But, 40 or 50 is guaranteed. And the rest is like, hey, you want the rest of this? You're going to have to be the wide back that we want you to be.
I'm looking at the chat. People are mad. And I know fans a lot of times don't have a lot of patience. They wanted Jimmy Garoppolo cut the day free agency started. You know, they want him traded now. He's still on the roster. There couldn't possibly be a world, right, guys, where Jimmy Garoppolo's on the roster and Deebo Samuel's not this year, because that would be pretty darn wild. That would be a wild scenario. Thad asked the question, is one player bigger than the organization? And I would always say no to that. The 49ers have already told us it's not. They moved on in much less, I think, much less, I don't know, sticky circumstances, much less headbutting and fighting publicly with DeForest Buckner, who's a model player. And they moved on from him when they got the right offer, and he wanted more than what they were willing to pay. And it would seem like it would be easier for the organization PR-wise to move on from a player who's publicly upset and requesting a trade than it was a couple years ago when they got rid of DeForest Buckner. So that leads me to the question of, what would it cost? What makes the 49ers better? So a team calls you, Croc, we want Deebo Samuel, and a month ago you're like, no, we're not trading Deebo Samuel. They call you back. They're like, look, I know we requested a trade. What do we have to give you to get this done? What makes you better as a football team?
I need 2 firsts and a day 2 pick. Now, it can be a first this year, a first next year, and a 2 this year, but that's like the only thing that can get me to move off him. I see there's a lot of people in the chat saying, well, Deebo has no leverage in the situation, but I think his leverage is just not wanting to be there. And we've seen this with N'Keal Harry, though, last year, right? N'Keal Harry was like, Patriots, trade me. And the Patriots are like, no, we're not going to trade you. You're just going to play. And he just played, right? But I don't think that's what you really want with a guy that's kind of the face of your team, the best player on your team right now. You want him to be happy. You want him to want to be there. So I think his leverage is just not wanting to be there. But you trade him for, I think, 2 firsts and a second.
It's a tough question to ask because you ask, how do they get better? And you just don't know with those draft picks. So it's like, do you need a starter in there as well? Like send us an offensive lineman that we know we can plug and play right now. We need help there. And then some draft picks as well. So if you're just looking at draft picks, it's like those guys are crapshoots. Who knows what you're actually going to get, in the future for those guys. So for me, it'd be really difficult to make your team better by trading away a Deebo Samuel.
You would have to wonder how the team feels about Brandon Ayuk. They would have to love Brandon Ayuk and think he could be the dude this year, and then get enough picks back where they could take a couple swings at a wide receiver in case they miss on one, plus another high-end starter somewhere else. That's where you could start to talk about, okay, maybe you are better off, plus the money you're going to save from paying Deebo. You could pay other players. They could bring in Tyrann Mathieu. They could bring in, say, whatever other free agent next offseason. So there is a lot of directions that could go, but it would be expensive. It would be very, very pricey. And I'm with you, Croc, that you have to be asking for at least 2 firsts plus another day 2 pick. Getting a lot in the chat about this. So Deebo, there's a video out right now, they say, from Instagram Live where Deebo says, I ain't getting no offer. So what do you think about that? Because the reports are that the 49ers now are trying to sign Deebo. He's not interested. Now he's saying he didn't get an offer. So what's going on? Are they mad about not getting an offer? No offer would even work. He doesn't care about an offer because he wants out that badly. And I, like the usage thing, and I don't understand what could have happened here to make Deebo Samuel, who was the most beloved player on the 49ers roster this year, seemingly had a great relationship with his head coach. Why would he just not want to re-sign with the 49ers? I don't get that at all. Something else is happening here. And I've got to point to agents and what's going on behind the scenes, because it's not like AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, those guys are, represented by the same guys, and they're from the same draft class, and they haven't signed yet either. So why is the Deebo thing getting so contentious? And actually the AJ Brown thing is starting to get there as well. AJ Brown, Tennessee Titans wide receiver, drafted in the very same second round. He scrubbed Tennessee from his social media accounts, and then had a few things to say about the situation on Twitter. So this is really odd. Deebo says there was no offer. Reports that the 49ers are willing to sign him now. If you believe everybody, it would point to Deebo Samuel not liking something else about the 49ers, but his play and the usage just can't be it, because you're going to get utilized that way by the team that trades for you. That's why you have value to those other teams, and they would be willing to give the 49ers what they want. So none of this makes sense at all to me.
I saw Lindsay Rhodes on Twitter just now. She was like, imagine like trading for Deebo Samuel, and the thing that he excelled at and what makes him so unique and different, he says he doesn't want to be used that way. Like that is, but here's the thing. Because again, if I'm Deebo Samuel, like I was a 1,400-yard receiver. And that's with me having more carries than receptions the last half of the season. I don't need to be handed the ball. I had to do that because of lack of running back. I should have been an 1,800-yard receiver. If I'm him, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for, that kind of money, sure.
Which he could have been. I feel like if they would have continued to utilize him the way they did, like he'd be an 1,800-yard receiver last year.
Agreed. And maybe the, I didn't get an offer thing is like his agent just being like, look, it's not a real offer what they sent you. It doesn't, it's so low. They're not being realistic right now.
And I keep seeing a lot about state taxes and things like that, but the way the players are paid is based on where they played their games. So, I mean, I can't imagine what taxes look like for players, but you only get taxed in California for the games you played in California, which is a lot of games because it's half your schedule of home games, and then you get to play, the Rams a couple times. But if you play a game against the Cowboys, you get paid based on Texas taxes. If you play a game in Florida, you get paid based on Florida taxes. So it's not just like 100% of your income is California taxes for these players. And so that one I don't think is a huge deal necessarily for players. And maybe it does make a difference, but it's also the reason you see a lot of people retire then to Florida and Texas after their career to protect that money. But I think it's not as big of a deal during your playing career. Oh, here we go. Now we're having some fun. Let's go Madden style trades. What about Deebo for AJ Brown? And then both guys get paid and get a new fresh start.
AJ Brown would be quite the wide back.
Yeah, nah, I don't think he'd do it.
No.
Well, first of all, Tennessee wouldn't do it, but I mean, they love AJ Brown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a situation where both teams love their guy more, and they would want something else back to go to the other guy.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Won't Deebo Samuel get fewer carries now or in theory get more average depth of target in a Trey Lance offense than he did in a Jimmy Garoppolo's led offense? So shouldn't that already kind of naturally take care of itself? If the 49ers pay you a bunch of money, they're not going to want to run you into the ground. There's a new quarterback, a new passing game that theoretically should see more throws down the field with the quarterback maybe taking some carries away from Deebo. I don't know, man. Something else is going on here. There was some disrespect, and I gotta believe it came from initial contract talks.
Yeah.
And the 49ers threw an offer that was a little bit low and tried to point to the carries and saying, look, you're kind of a running back, so maybe we should pay you kind of like a running back. And maybe that was a misstep by the 49ers to start there. But that's the only thing that makes sense to me. That's what had to happen. And whether or not it was an official offer where you could sign, and look, you don't like fax over offers all day, right? It's not like fantasy baseball. Wink and I play in a fantasy baseball league together. I got a trade the other day that was terrible, but there was one button I could press that say accept, but I pressed reject, right? But usually if you want to get a deal done, you talk before you have the official offer, then you fax over the paperwork because you already know they're going to sign it, right? So I don't know about those conversations, and then Deebo's agent tells Deebo, oh man, they lowballed you, and they were talking about using you as a running back, and he's like, oh, I'm out of here, So I don't know. I think fans should probably have a little patience. think Deebo should have some patience. And I think the 49ers and Deebo could work this out and get the deal done because everybody loves everybody in the end, right? They should. But if you're Deebo and you truly want out, you do want this to happen now, and you need this thing to blow up so you can get traded before draft day, because after next week, Deebo's not going anywhere.
Yeah, you mentioned the buttons to push the counter button, Deebo. Maybe they sent an offer back, and they was just like the Niners laughed at it. They're like, whoa,
Well, the
we
49ers
don't pay running backs that much.
Yeah, the 49ers need to happen right now too.
Yeah.
Because of the drafting. Like if he's truly that just going to, and maybe he's just throwing a tantrum. That could be that. My wife all the time, it could be something for dinner. And if I don't get what she wants, she could throw a little tantrum and then eventually she'll be over it, right?
She's not listening, right?
Keep your voice down, Croc. She's in the next room, okay?
I know. Right. But, she gets over it. So maybe it could be that. Maybe he's throwing a tantrum right now. Mm-hmm. Wiped his scrubbed his Instagram account. His brother's saying they want to request a trade. A lot of people didn't believe it, but I thought it was true. And I had a lot of pushback on that on my YouTube channel where I was talking about, like, my brothers and I, like, we talk about everything. So if they come out and say, hey, my brother Eric is requesting trade, better believe, like, that really was a conversation between he and I, not something made up. And clearly we see that now, right? But hopefully he's just throwing a tantrum. And you would hope that if you can't get a trade done now before the draft.
And look,
they don't want to trade him. I want to make sure they don't want to trade him. They want to make this work.
Hey, Wink, do you have your phone on you? Can you double check Croc's wife's Instagram? Make sure she's not scrubbing photos out of
single. That's weird.
Yeah. So, and from a leverage standpoint, look, if the 49ers want Deebo, period, and they're not willing to listen to offers, he's under contract for another year. They got the franchise tag after that. Yeah. And the new collective bargaining agreement makes it nearly impossible for players to sit out because they're not going to get paid. So the only thing Deebo could do is literally not make money and get fined and not play next year for the 49ers. And that's not good for his career and make him less money in the long run. So if the 49ers want to keep him, they do have the leverage, and that's part of the game. So maybe this is just Deebo's agent trying to wrestle some leverage back from the 49ers to try to get that bigger number before the draft comes. But if he's truly unhappy and this is irreconcilable, irreconcilable is the word I'm searching for here. You got a week to figure this out. And if teams come, they better come correct with an offer. And it has to be an offer for the 49ers because Deebo is too important to this team, too important to the offense. It has to be an offer that is so big that you can see why it would make you better to move on from Deebo Samuel. And that would be a huge offer. We didn't get to Alex Mack. By the way, Alex Mack might retire in the next couple of days. Who knows about that?
That's fun. That offensive line doesn't need that right now, man.
I want to thank everybody for jumping into the live chat with us here, making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. We'll get into the rest of what's going on with the Niners, Alex Mack, the NFL draft. Of course, there's going to be more information about what's going on with Deebo Samuel and the 49ers. It is going to be a heck of an interesting week, and we are here every day for you on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you're checking out the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show, the Ultimate Mock Draft, and Croc hosting Locked On NFL Draft Daily here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Croc and I back tomorrow with special guest. Actually, we'll be recording later tonight. Special guest Larry Kruger talking about some late round draft prospects. Talk to you then right here. Locked On